Style matters in its various manifestations, but I'd argue that as a society we've become progressively externally focused on style. A lot of us embrace the notion of style remote, meaning we may look to actors or actresses or to fashion models as a benchmark for the appreciation of the aesthetic, but yet we don't embrace it ourselves. We don't, for example, dress as we did in the 1950s and the early part of the 1960s, where there was this Mad Men characteristic, this warmth, this emotionally elevating component to the way we presented ourselves externally to the world in the most visible manner possible. And this represents, in terms of not only clothing, but I think in many other ways, with the styling, with the design of automobiles, with the attention to interior design, with a general interest in the aesthetic and an understanding that the aesthetic is remarkably, perhaps profoundly impactful on the soul, on the emotion, and on the spirit that we experience in the day. When we simply interact with someone who seems to take great care in their dress, not in an attempt to look hip, not in an attempt to look cool, which usually has the absolute opposite effect, but rather in an attempt to look respectable, with care given to each element of the aesthetic that in the assembly creates some degree of beauty. And I think as a consequence of that, we're somewhat debased in our daily activities, in that we don't derive the pleasure we could from the simple visual feast that we encounter walking around and experiencing life. We are highly visual creatures. The same way as a dog is drawn to smell, I think we're drawn to the visual, to the aesthetic. So I'd simply argue, perhaps it's time to look back to the care and the sense and sensibility of decades past and not copy, but rather rediscover the value of an embrace of that degree of detailed attention to the way we connect emotionally, to the way we project visually. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and thanks.